Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a great day, a blessed day. And today I wanted to talk about escaping negative stigma in the Catholic Church. And basically what that means is, as modern Christians today, we can still be persecuted, even though it's not like maybe how terrible it is as it was back in the day for the disciples and everyone, but it's still not great. And I think it's important to talk about. So here we go. I first started thinking about this issue when I was in middle school, 7th grade, in a social studies class. And my social studies teacher, he was teaching us all about the different religions of the world. And then he started doing something kind of strange, and I started paying attention to this. As an attempt to make the other religions look better, he kind of started focusing and saying strange things about Catholicism, as if he knew everything about it, but he said he wasn't Catholic and he didn't. And so I was starting to worry, he's a figure in authority and he could be, teaching the wrong thing about the faith to other people. And then that's what he started to do. He started saying that Catholicism was like polytheism, and he asked us if there were any Catholics in the classroom and if we worshiped the saints, and one kid just silently said, no. And there was an awkward silence, and then he went on to say, millions of people go to see the Pope and love him, but me, I don't care about that guy. And then I was just oh no. It just felt like it was starting to take a negative turn. Even though it was a little subtle, it still felt like it was strange that he just singled out Catholicism and started kind of almost putting it down. And I get that he was trying to show how everyone has different beliefs and we should respect them all, but I'm tired of, Catholicism being used as, some kind of underdog example. But one thing he did say that was good is that using the Lord's name in vain is actually offensive, and that we probably shouldn't use that. And, taking the Lord's name is saying, oh my, and then God's name or something like that, or instead of just saying, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, they say the other thing. So I thought that was at least kind. But as I sat there in the classroom, I actually started thinking about how when Jesus said this road wasn't easy, he really knew what he was talking about. Catholics today still struggle from persecution or being misunderstood. Just a few months ago, I learned a Eucharist was stolen for a black mass, but thankfully a guy stepped in and saved it before anything happened. There's also another issue. There's scandals within the orders, and that's not helping the church either. There was a deacon I knew that always looked grumpy at a church I went to, and I just thought he was just a grumpy guy that somehow became a deacon. But I respected him, I waved to him, but one day we learned he actually stole money from the church, and it was posted all over the news. And I remember this friend I know, she said that this is just terrible for the church. It just makes us look even worse every time this happens, and that's why we need to pray for our religious too. When the religious do stuff, they're setting an example of Jesus and how disciples should be, and that's why we really, really, really need to pray for them. And what people don't understand is that it isn't the church doing these things. But when these scandals happen, it creates more misunderstanding of what the church actually is and what it's actually teaching, and it has nothing to do with that. Jesus has nothing to do with that if you know Jesus. But it's Satan trying to work his way into individual choices of these people. It's not right to group millions of devout Catholics or anyone with, the wrong idea of the religion or into something someone else did. I've also noticed that a lot of people think there are too many rules and traditions with Catholics, and that creates a lot of division and animosity towards people that are Catholic. But I think in reality those rules and traditions actually translate to deep reverence and respect and love for the Lord who created us all. And if you remove all that, what what do you do for him? The traditional mass a lot of people think is boring, but it's literally reenacting Christ's passion, which Jesus and Mary have confirmed, it gives them great joy and consolation. And to ignore their gifts and the help that they've given us by not attending Mass just shows that you don't really care what they've done for us. It's a free gift we can give to attend Mass, and in return, Jesus freely gives himself to us in the Eucharist, and he's present whenever we need him, in his home at church. His home becomes our home. And I think a main problem might be just, pride. Pride in not wanting to go to church, pride in not wanting to feel guilty in confession, when you're actually just supposed to acknowledge that you do feel sorrow for your sins. You want to be better. That's the whole point. It's not to put you down. It's just to have that forgiveness between you and God. This close, personal, vulnerable moment in confession is actually a beautiful embrace between you and Jesus. He doesn't want you to feel guilty or hate yourself, just acknowledgement. People still have pride in not forgiving others, pride in loving oneself and valuing that more than being humble before the Lord. And pride in just believing one's own interpretation of Jesus' teachings and the faith. I know this one guy I heard about, he justified his anger with the story of Jesus flipping tables. But Jesus was not flipping tables. He is our carpenter. He's trying to build tables for us in the kingdom of heaven by life of good virtue. When he sees humankind building their own tables inspired by greed and selfishness right in his Father's house, like in that story, he's going to get rid of it for us to make us better. He's not that wasn't a story of him being angry and wrathful. It's a story of him trying to help us because he knows that we're better than what we are, what we've been. He holds our true selves within himself. And Jesus, of course, he's going to restore his Father's house. He wants it to be a place that's safe, that's real, that's completely filled with his teaching. And so if some person does something that messes up someone's view of the church, it can be pretty bad because it will confuse others. That's why we just need to be aware and to pray against the negative stigma for the church. And I hope this helps some people understand how we can still be persecuted. There are many other ways. I could talk for hours, but those were a few key points that I've noticed during my life. And I hope you all have a blessed day. Thank you so much for listening. And if you do see another Christian being persecuted or the faith being put down, stick up for Jesus and stand up for him as if you would stand up for someone being bullied in school. No one deserves to have false information being spread about them. And if you can help stop that for Jesus, that would be amazing. So thank you, I love you, and God bless.